morning. My name is Humphris. I've had a few requests to do this video to let people know how this cable bender that I manufacture works. I've written some instructions, but some people are having difficulty trying to understand it. So I thought I'd go through this morning and show you how it works. What I'm going to do is make a cable, RG402 cable, to go between these two connectors here, and we'll see if the instructions work. Okay, in order to make this cable, we need a few things. We need a set of instructions. We need the device itself, of course, calculator, the cable bender, need a marking pen, pencil, a small file. In this case I'm going to use a 6-inch 150mm rule. Need a junior hacksaw, and over here there's a couple of clamps that I made up to hold the cable securely while I cut it in the vise. It's quite simple. It's just a couple of bits of angle with a 3.6mm hole drilled through it, and then I take 0.1 of a millimetre off each of these faces to allow it to squish the cable without damaging it, and of course a piece of paper. So let's get into it now. Okay, here we have the device. First thing we need to know is how far apart these connectors are. See if I can get this up and measure it. Centre to centre, it looks like 25mm to me, so there's our first measurement. The connectors are 25mm apart. Write that down. 25. Now what we have to do here is subtract from the 25 the diameter of the cable, which is 0.141 inches, which is 3.6mm. So we take away 3.6, and my maths is not as good as it used to be. 25 minus 3.6 is equal to 21.4. Now the instructions say that the minimum length that you can have of the cable around the bender is 19mm, and because we're going to do a U-shaped bend, 2 times 19mm is 38mm. Add that all together, we end up with 59.4mm. So that's the length of the cable that we have to cut. Okay, now I'm going to fit the clamp into the vise. You may already have a professional kit that does this. I haven't. So I've got my piece of semi-rigid. Remember, the cut length is going to be 59.4mm. Just has to be snugged up. Grab the marking pen, mark in from the end. Whoops, that's the inches side. Here we go. And you've got to get this fairly accurate. So there's 60, 59. So I'm just going to slight left of 59.5. I made a cable earlier and I thought, oh, 60mm would be good enough, but it wasn't. It ended up being too long. So you've got to get this reasonably accurate. Alright, we'll grab the junior hacksaw and accurately cut it off. There we have our piece. Remove the cable. Put this aside for the time being. Next thing we have to do is just simply take off the burrs. I've successfully used a linisher with a Scotch-Brite belt on it. It does a fantastic job of doing this. You can control it very easily to get the burrs off, but this is the hand way of doing it. Okay, there's our prepared piece. It's better if you use straight cable. I've had to start off with some cable that was coiled, which is a real pain in the neck because you've got to straighten it to do this. But the cable bender stretches everything into shape anyway, so then we have to do our marking positions, which is 19mm in for each end. So that's the minimum you can do. Of course, if you've got a big long length of cable, you can put your bend mark anywhere you like. So I'm going to mark this one 19mm in from this end and 19mm in from that end, and then we'll do the bend. Okay, now that we've got the cable cut to the correct length, I'm now going to mark it 19mm in from each end. I'll just get this on the other side. It's probably a good idea to push it up against a stop to get it accurate. Okay, there we go. 19mm from that end. And 19mm from this end. It's important to get these two marks in the same plane, because that's what we're going to use to line up on the mark on the bender. Okay, the bender can be used in two ways in the vise here, or by hand. I prefer by hand. Some people prefer it by to mount it permanently in the vise. If you're setting up a production line, I'd recommend setting it up in the vise. So there we are, the mark lined up with the mark here on the forming roller. It's just simply a matter of winding this in till you go just past 90 degrees. It takes a bit of practice, and spring it back and just have a look at it. Looks like around about 90 degrees, maybe a little bit more because you can always spring them apart further. Wind this back, take the piece, put it back into the bender, put a little bit of tension on it, get the mark lined up, and make sure that this is parallel to this, so that when the bends are formed, these two legs of the U are actually in the same plane. And then just go a little bit past 90 degrees. That looks reasonable to me. So there's our U-shaped piece. If you've got a CAD program, SolidWorks, using the pipe function, you can design very complex bends and put all the marks on the cable before you do the bending, because SolidWorks drawings will tell you where the bend points need to be located. You just simply lay the cable out straight, mark it all on the different planes that it needs to go through, and use this bender to form the bends, and you'll end up with a reasonably accurate cable. Just put these shells on the device that we're going to use, and let's see if it fits. Okay, I've mounted it up in the vise to try to zoom in a bit to show you how it fits. Here we go. Yeah, looks like it lines up pretty well. Drop it straight in. So that's how you do a U-shaped cable. Next I'll show you how to do a 180 degree bend. Okay, for the purpose of demonstration, I've assumed that we wanted to put a 180 degree bend at 50 millimeters in from the end of this cable. Principle's the same, just mounted in the jig. In this case I've mounted it in the vise to hold it steady. Align the bend mark and just bring it right into position. And continue through. And that's basically your 180 degree bend. So there it is in detail. In this case it'll spring back a little bit when I take it out of the bender, but it's just a matter of using your thumbs then to bring it into alignment to make sure the two legs are parallel. Okay, you can see that it's not parallel. It's just simply a matter of squeezing it, and that looks pretty good to me. It's pretty forgiving semi-rigid cable. As I mentioned earlier, you can just tweak it into position. If you've got a production job to do, you've got lots of them to do, you just make up a jig with the connectors in the correct position where you want them to be, do your calculations. If you've got a CAD program like SolidWorks, it can do all the bend points for you quite easily. Brilliant SolidWorks. You put it into the pipe function, just do up your drawing and then flatten the whole thing out, cut your cable straight, and use the bender here to form it into the correct shape. It would be quite easy now to put another right angle bend upwards this way to bring it up, to join it onto something else. If the cable was longer, you could do lots and lots of bends. It is quite versatile.